Live. I'm going to do a testing. Oh, look. It says that it's live.
Oh, good.
Let me listen to it. Hello? 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 Okay, it works. Okay. Um, Hi, everyone. This is Derek, the duck. And today I am in Chicago, Illinois. Um, and today, since I'm here, I wanted to do, I don't know what this is. What is?
It's just degreaser.
Today, I'm going to be degreasing. And I wanted to give a special from Chicago live stream to talk about travel here in case you're interested. Um, in case you're interested in coming to Chicago to travel. And today we have a special guest named Manny. And he's going to, since I am not an expert in Chicago travel or tourism, he's going to help with a few key points today that might help you in case you're interested in visiting this beautiful city. Um, so yeah, I wanted to ask him some questions. First of all, and if you have any questions, please let me know on the chat, or those who will watch later. I'm going to archive it, so feel free to ask questions in there, and we will get back to you. First of all, I wanted to show you this donut. This is pretty much the biggest donut in the world, and it's available at a place called Huck Finn's here in Chicago, and they make it daily, so it's always fresh. And so I'm going to be eating this donut for part of the interview. But yeah, so I wanted to ask Manny, our resident Chicagoan, I think is the official term, a few questions about. Oh, I see there's a couple of people viewing. Thank you. Welcome. Um, I wanted to ask him a few questions about Chicago. So, Manny, what do you love most about Chicago?
Um, my favorite part of the city, or the part to visit the city, is Chinatown. I'm a big fan of Chinatown. I might be a little biased, but I'm 100% honest. It's beautiful Chinatown. It really is. It's it's got the lights. It's got two sections. It's got the traditional Chinatown, and just recently built. They have Chinatown Square. The traditional Chinatown is beautiful. The food is awesome. It's all the traditional Chinatown stuff you would find restaurants, knickknacks, statues, everything you would think you would find in Chinatown. They have added a few bakeries that are new, and the bakeries are awesome. And their bakeries, they bake their Chinese bakery pastries and their breads and everything else. They do it daily. They don't have anything left over at the end of the night.
Like this donut?
Yes, very fresh, very delicious, and not real sugary like American bakeries. The Chinese bakeries are really good with a lot of flavor, not packed with sugar like the American bakeries.
Okay. So you like to eat.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people think Chicago, they think pizza. If you are traveling and you're a tourist, but you want to eat like a real Chicagoan, where would you say some of the best pizza is in town?
The neighborhood pizza places are usually better than the ones that everybody flock to. In this area, I'm in the south side of Chicago. Falco's Pizza is one of the best pizzas in the area. It's not, it's common with anybody you would ask in Chicago. Falco's is mostly on the south side. The north siders, they go with Pizza Uno, which is a traditionally baked in a concrete or a brick oven. But the pizza in Chicago, we have Connie's Pizza, which is always well done, and they have a lot of pasta dishes as well. And it's a really nice place. It's big, it's roomy. They serve drinks. It's very clean, and the service is real good. But for me, when I want pizza, neighborhood pizza, I go to a place called Falco's, and they do a good job with their pizzas.
Pizza. You know what else is big here? Polish hot dogs.
Oh yes.
Um, which one would you say is some of your favorite places to get, to get a Polish hot dog? I'm sorry, this isn't gonna all just be food.
Yeah, the traditional place, which in this time, the traditional place and the best place happen to be the same. Everybody goes to the Maxwell Street Polishes that have been around forever, and they're 24 hours. It's usually crowded after midnight because it's the after midnight crowd that's getting out of a bar with a little bit of hunger before they go home. And they can go, you go at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the cars are lined up for a Maxwell Street Polish with grilled onions traditionally. Or you can get a hot dog with grilled onions. You can get a hot dog with regular raw onions. They are very famous for their pork chop sandwiches as well. They have a bone-in pork chop between two buns with a little slap of mustard. But most people go there for the Polishes, and they're big and they smell funky, but they taste delicious. And there's always a crowd there, day and night, mostly nighttime.
Okay. Gambling. We're allowed to gamble here, right? We can do sports betting. We've got casinos. Exactly how many casinos have you visited?
I visited all the casinos in the area. I'm not a gambler, so I couldn't really I couldn't convince you one is better than the other because I don't know. So there's quite a few that, and there's a couple that are right across the Indiana Illinois border, which are 15 minutes away from me because I'm on the south side of Chicago, and there's a couple in Joliet, Illinois, which is maybe 30 minutes outside of Chicago. So in Chicago proper, I think there's only one, the shrine, the Bally's. I'm sorry, the Bally's, and what we do have here, which almost everybody takes advantage of, is you can bet at the bars. They have the slot machines and a different type of slot machines. I can't figure them out because I'm not a gambler. But you go into the all night greasy spoons, and they have a little room set aside. And I don't know if it's truckers or it's people that don't want to go home. I don't know what the problem is, or it's not a problem. Excuse me, but those places are always loaded. A friend of mine owns a bar, and he put in slot machines, and he says they make a fortune on those things, and people spend hours sitting there, and they always walk away happy with their winnings. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's 100% true. His place is always packed with people gambling, and there's, like I said, even the small little restaurants, even what I mentioned before, Falco's, they have an area for slot machines. So because gambling is legal here, a lot of people do take advantage of it without driving to the big casinos. They can go in their pajamas to the neighborhood bar and spend the time and money, of course, at the local slot machines since it's legal here in the city. It just became legal in the city not too long ago. It's been legal in the state, but it hasn't been legal in the city of Chicago. So now that it is, people are taking advantage of it. And like I said, you can go in your pajamas to the neighborhood greasy spoon and spend a couple of bucks on breakfast and a couple of bucks on gambling.
How often do you go partially clothed to your local greasy spoon?
Not often, but I see other people pretty much in their jammies, just going to quick catch a couple of quick pancakes and a couple of coins in the slots.
Okay. Okay, that was good. You mentioned south side of Chicago. Now, the south side sort of has a reputation, if you will, of being a little roughed. How would you describe the various coordinates, north, south, east, west, of Chicago, especially if you're someone who's about to travel to Chicago and maybe they're thinking of an Airbnb in the South Side, or maybe they want to stay at the Palmer House downtown, or they're trying to decide where to go. Which would you say is one of the more rough areas, and which would you say are some of the more exclusive areas?
Sadly, Chicago is known for the rough and tough South Side. But being born and raised here, I can tell you honestly, you can go 10 minutes from downtown and be in a rough area. South Side has some rough areas. The West Side is horrible in some areas. So I would have to tell you to read up on the reviews of wherever you're thinking of staying. I can't tell you that either side of town is the best. The North Side has more money, but they also have their problems. There's nowhere in Chicago that I can say you can go blindly and have a good time. It's there's a lot of rough areas because there's a lot of rough people. As it turns out, there's a lot of beautiful areas. I love Chicago. I absolutely think it's beautiful, and it's very easy to get around. And I never worry about running into trouble because I'm born here. I know the places to stay away from. So if you're going to get an Airbnb or visit, just try to ask somebody that knows where you're going and ask, "Hey, is the area okay?" Usually in the reviews, they tell you if the area is shady. But yeah, I highly recommend coming. It's a beautiful city, absolutely beautiful city. Just be careful where you stay. There's rough parts, north, south, east. No, we don't have much of an east side because east is the Michigan Lake, the Lake Michigan. But southeast side, they all have their problems. Just be careful.
You spoke a little bit about the lake. Um, Earlier, I was driving with you, and you mentioned that you Chicago has like what beaches or lakes, and it has all this beautiful water area. Are there some like really exciting, gorgeous water areas that people might be interested in staying at? And if so, what are some of the best water features in town?
Well, I recently had a cousin come from out of town, and she was amazed. She had no idea we even had beaches. I said, just a
I
quick
still
peek,
don't.
just a quick peek on the map. You see the big blue blotch right next to Chicago. That's Lake Michigan. It's huge. We've got at least a dozen really nice beaches, but some of the smaller hidden beaches are just as nice. So all along the lakefront is nice. Not a lot of danger being at the lakefront. Some of it is you can see the tall buildings from downtown. That's always a good area. But as far as taking your picnic or taking your towel and going to the beach, I can honestly say from Indiana all the way to Wisconsin, the beaches are beautiful and there's really nothing to worry about. It's a beautiful lake. It's a little cold now, but it, it, it was funny that my cousin came from out of town and she told me, she says, I didn't even know Chicago had a beach. And I said, it's kind of sad that sadly, all you see about Chicago, everything is gray, everything has graffiti, and there's nothing but crime. Chicago's a beautiful city, and the lakefront is probably one of the best that I've been in, and I've been to a lot of cities.
What is Navy Pier?
Navy Pier is a part of Chicago. It's right off of downtown Chicago, and it's what it sounds like. It's a pier. It's currently filled with amusements. There's live concerts, there's beer gardens, there's live music. They have a lot of outdoor activities in the summertime, and there's boats lined up for if you want to take a ride on a small little what do you call it, cigar boats. They're really fast, and they got the little ships if you want to take a smaller ship out into the lake. It's a refurbished pier where they used to have Navy training, but they've made it beautiful. They got a big old Ferris wheel. They've got a ton of restaurants. They have just as much inside because there's a lot of it inside. In the summertime, everybody goes to be outside. They have fireworks at night on Wednesdays and Fridays, and it's nice to sit out there, eat your lunch or your dinner out there, listen to live music. You could even entertain yourself with a few drinks, and it's beautiful with a beautiful view of the city. It's just a beautiful place to be. And if it's wintertime, you go and there's plenty to do inside as well. So it's not just an outdoor pier. It's outdoor and it's indoor. They got movie theaters, they got shops, they got restaurants. It's a beautiful destination if you're going to be in the city.
You mentioned summertime and a little bit about the weather. I'm looking here at the weather report for tomorrow. It says it's going to be 2 degrees. 2. Exactly how cold is Chicago, and what does a traveler here need to just expect and need to pack? Are we
That's
talking Antarctica? Like what's going on?
that's really hard to say since I grew up here and I've been around for 63 years. I've kind of gotten used to it. And mostly everybody here will do the same. If it's too cold, they just won't go out. 2 degrees can be dealt with if you prepare wisely. If it's going to be 2 degrees, make sure you have gloves, make sure you have earmuffs. But it's really not a big deal. If you go downtown, you see just as many people walking. If you go to the highway, you see just as many cars. Nobody stays in because it's 2 degrees. That happens every year. But for somebody coming from out of town, be very careful. I can't tell you how cold it is because it's colder for somebody who's coming from a warmer climate. I would just say, I would just suggest be prepared. Bring layers, bring your scarf, bring your earmuffs, and bring gloves. 2 degrees is not the end of the world. It's just a cold day, and most of us here in Chicago are used to cold days. But for outsiders, all I can say is be prepared, dress accordingly.
Thermals.
Absolutely.
Um, they call it the Windy City. Exactly how windy is it?
For me, windy is a normal day. I've heard people come from out of town and says, "Wow, it really is windy," and sadly, because of sadly because it's the season that we're in, the wind carries a lot of cold with it. You know, on a summer day, you'd welcome the breeze, but on a winter day, it bites. The wind does bite. To me, it doesn't, but I could see how somebody who's not from here, it's unusual to get the wind and the wind being freezing. So yeah, again, the Windy City is a beautiful city, and the wind don't bother me, but it will bother you if you're not from here, especially in this season.
One place you might get caught in the wind is waiting for the so-called L train. Can you explain a little bit about the efficiency and the usability of transit here, especially with the trains or subways or metro or whatever it's called? Is it if someone's traveling to Chicago, maybe for the first time, and they have a little map and they have a little app or something, do you think that they'd be able to get around pretty well to see some of the cool sights of Chicago just by using its transit system?
Well, the transit system here is great. You can get anywhere in the city at a reasonable time, wherever if you're going to the north side to the south side, it's very reasonable. And now, updated. I'm not going to say now, but it's been a while. All the train stations are equipped with the heated lights, the heated lights overhead, and most of them have little where you come in to pay for your train ride. They have areas you could sit inside, and because of the technology, the lights will come on or the signal come on or somebody will come on the speaker and say, you know, in 10 seconds your train will be arriving. And it tells you which train because one's going south, one's going north, or one's going east and one's going west. So it tells you exactly which train is coming so you can stay indoors in the heat until the very last minute, run upstairs, get on your train, and the trains are all heated. And if you wanna try waiting outside so you can see the train coming, like I said, the little waiting areas are all heated. It's not it's not that inconvenient waiting for the train. And the train during the day they come pretty regularly. There's never a really you're never gonna wait an hour outside for the train. Trains come pretty regularly. They're pretty well scheduled, and there's places for you to stay warm. So if you're coming, don't be afraid of traveling on Chicago Transit Authority, CTA. They've got buses, they've got trains, they got the subway, they got the elevated train, and they're all really well, and they're really well run, and their schedules are all real well. So you'll get all over the city, and you'll get there cheap and you'll get there fast, and you don't have to worry about freezing.
When you say cheap, do they have like a pass or something for like a Chicago person, maybe like for a month or something? Is it inexpensive? Is it what is it, $1,000? What is it like?
I would suggest the daily passes, depending on how long you're going to be here. They have weekly passes, they have monthly passes. But for somebody who's not been here or not staying too long, I would get the daily passes for any day that you're going to be here or for as many days you're going to be here. If you're going to be a week, I'd get a weekly pass. But the day passes are good. You pay one price and your pass is good. Unlimited rides, bus or train, it's an all day thing. So if you want to go to the south side to the Museum of Science and Industry, you want to go downtown for high for high dining, for beautiful dining. You can go do both. You could do anything you want, and you can have all day, and you don't have to worry about we got to hurry up before the pass runs out. It's an all day pass, so I would highly recommend it.
Have you ever been in the subway and seen like a giant rodent? Because I've seen one in New York and London, and it freaks me out to go down there. Exactly how big are the rodents in the subways of Chicago?
I don't like to speak negative of this big, beautiful city of mine,
Not really negative.
but I'll be honest. A cousin of mine came to Chicago, and we went down to the subway. She was like, "We gonna see rats?" I said,
That's always what I think.
"I said as soon as we get down there." And I am not kidding you. The minute we got to the bottom of our stairway, and we looked around, I said, "Look at the train tracks." I didn't even bother to walk. I said, "Just walk to the edge. You'll see rats," because they are always on the train tracks, always running back and forth, and they're big. They're like small cats. They're no joke. They're well fed here in the city. It's warm down there on the subway trains, and without even looking, I could tell, yeah, 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 we'll see some because I know we will. They're. That's probably the best way to see them if you want to see them in their natural habitat. But yeah, you go anywhere in the city and you won't see rats. But the subway, they're there. There's a lot of them, and they're nice and warm, and there's always food for them. So yeah, sadly, you will see some in the subway.
So we've got rats, and they're big. Do you ever see them like running around the streets or anything, or is it just subway exclusive?
Yeah, you'll see some rats downtown, but it's right before morning, right before dawn, when there's hardly anybody else on the streets. If you're gonna go out in the evening for pizza, if you're gonna go out for Chinese food or whatever, you won't see any rats. They're smart enough to stay out of your way during the day. No, but they know when the traffic has died down, they'll sneak out and see what's left on the sidewalk, and that happens all over the city. But yeah, you'll run into them, but they won't be like you see on TV. Oh, there's rats over there and rats over there. They're smart enough to wait till the traffic has died down. When there's nobody around, you'll see them.
Yeah, I certainly seen a lot of Chicago on TV. Is Chicago just like all one big John Hughes movie?
Absolutely not. It's I hate to repeat myself. It's a big, beautiful city, but it has everything. We can spend some time over in the Vietnam side of town. We can go to the Greek side of town, and I don't mean that as in people. I mean it as in food. There's places in the city that has a variety of foods. You go to the Polish part of town. There's all kinds of Polish and Croatian food, Czech food. There's a place out west where it's almost all Korean food. So yeah, it's not all a big John Hughes movie. There's people that are poor. You see them on the street. It's a sad situation. You see people riding in beautiful cars, and they seem to be very happy. I'm neither, so I'm right in the middle. I'm happy where I am, and I'm happy to be here. But yeah, there's all kinds of people here. It's not all John Hughes movie, but for the most part, yeah, it looks like a happy city from the places I visited. Again, I don't want to put a blanket statement, but yeah, you'll find some rough areas. But it's not a John Hughes movie. It's a beautiful city.
You mentioned that, first of all, I didn't even know Czech food existed or Croatian food. Um, exactly how diverse and how much of a melting pot is Chicago? I mean, we know that New York is a place where people, all immigrants, all, and they have different sections. How would you sort of rank, just based off of general knowledge, just the overall diversity of groups or people or from all over the world that are here in Chicago?
I've been here all my life. I've been to New York. I have never lived there, so I can't compare the two. But this city, you can find everything and anything and everything here from any other country, from anywhere in the world. It's diverse enough where if you look hard enough, you'll find up north people who know. You go further enough north, you see the whole Indian community and all the Indian food, and they've got great food. I've been to Middle Eastern places where I can go get Syrian food, strictly Syrian food. So no matter where you're at or whatever your taste is for that day, you can find it, and there's no limit to the variety. Like I mentioned, you go to the Polish area and they get the Polish food, and it's real similar to the German food, and like I said before, the Czech food. There's places for everybody and for all the flavors in this city. There really is.
Which one's your favorite?
I personally like Chinatown. I'm in love with Chinatown, uh, and it's grown perhaps double than when it was when I was a kid. The traditional Chinatown has the traditional Chinese restaurants and the big beautiful lights and the all the decorations. The newer part that they just built is what they call Chinatown Square. And I talked to a friend of mine who's from San Francisco, and I asked her, says, "What do you think of Chinatown?" She said she absolutely loved it, and she says, "I love it way more than I love this Chinatown in San Francisco." I said, "I've been to the Chinatown in San Francisco. I thought it was great." She goes, "Yeah, but your Chinatown should be called Asian Town because the food is more diverse than you see in most Chinatown." She goes, "I found food in your Chinatown from the smallest provinces in China. You get the usual Szechuan and the Mongolian, and even the most famous one is the Cantonese." She goes, "But when I went to your Chinatown, I seen food from villages and places that she would have never guessed. All the provinces there are represented." She goes, "And a big plus is when I went to Chinatown Square, I was shocked. There's sushi places, Japanese places, a bunch of Korean barbecue places." She goes, "That area should be called Asia now because all of Asia was represented there." And she said, "Not just represented well." She goes, "So if you have a taste for Asian food, but not necessarily Chinese, Chinatown is still the place to go because they have everything there, and it's all very clean. It's all very nice. The people are very accommodating. I would highly suggest Chinatown. That's probably why I eat there as much as I do. The people are always very friendly and very accommodating, whatever you want. And the food is always good. They're always clean. They're always real accommodating, and it's just a pleasant place to hang out.
You've mentioned, you've compared a little bit of Chicago to San Francisco or New York, something like that. Is this an expensive city? And if so, how should people prepare themselves for it?
Well, honestly, expensive is all relative. If you're expecting everything to cost the same as it does in your town or your city, it depends where you're from. It's very comparable to nationwide prices. And I've been to New York and I've been to San Francisco, and their Chinatowns, both on both of them were way more pricier than Chicago. But if you go to some of the higher end restaurants, the same Chinese dish will cost you more because you're in a more beautiful surrounding. Some of their higher echelon restaurants, they look better, they've decorated better, and they're going to charge you a little bit more. But in general, I would say Chicago is either the same or less than the other big cities that I've been to, and and I might be a little biased again, but I'm 100% honest. I absolutely love this Chinatown more than New York or San Francisco or anywhere else that I've gone.
Okay. Um, I was riding the L elevated once, and I'll never forget. There was this lady kind of walking towards me, and she looked, I'm going to say angry and maybe frustrated, and had this kind of weather beaten face of like wind that had been in, like Chicago wind, and just like the world had just beaten her to a, I don't know what. You mentioned earlier that in certain areas where you've eaten, some people are very, very sweet and friendly. Would you say that all Chicagoans are super friendly and easy to talk to, especially if you're from, let's just say, Texas or something like that? And we're kind of used to people being kind of down home and everyone shakes their hands and tips their hats. How would you describe the vibe of normal Chicagoans?
It's hard to say. Chicago is filled with, especially on the L train or the subway, there's a lot of mental health issued people that are wandering the streets, talking to themselves, even yelling at themselves, might even yell at you just to break the monotony. So yeah, it's that's very common. But as far as in general, I've never heard anybody badmouth Chicago as far as the people they come in contact with. So I wouldn't say in general everybody's pleasant. Everybody's got their own issues, and a lot of people like to stay there themselves. It's not like when you go down south and everybody's howdy partner. It's not like that. If anything, you might walk the streets for 10 hours and not get a single how you doing or even a single smile. But they won't go out of your way to annoy you. They won't go out of your way. It's very much a city that's they keep to themselves. You'll find some younger people or even older people that are real pleasant to with a real pleasant disposition. They're happy to say hi. They're happy to help you if you're looking for directions. Very few will turn their backs on you, but they're not really as accommodating as you would find maybe in Louisiana with the Howdy Partners. But in general, the people are okay. I wouldn't call it a mean city. I wouldn't call it a bad city. I'm just telling you, you're going to find all types here. It's a big city. There's a lot of variety of people.
You mentioned younger people, and earlier you said over there there's one of the discos. Kind of a fun archaic term, but is this a city for young people? Can people come here and go to the local disco and have a pop? And is this like a happening place for maybe someone who's traveling and is young and wants to party? Or is this a place that gets tired and then is everything shuts down at 10 p.m.? What's going on here?
Absolutely not. You take 5 minutes to look online and you'll find a dozen places. This is a hipster town. It's been years since I even were anywhere near a hipster, but they're around and there's plenty of places for them to hang out. Uh, Mostly downtown or near north, but you'll find great places on the south side, on the west side, that are great for the younger crowd. They're warm, they're safe, they're very accommodating. There's plenty of music. You can get any kind of music you want. You get the reggaeton, you can get regular R&B. There's jazz clubs. There's everything here. So yeah, it's a hipster town. I'm no longer a hipster, or ever was really, but it's a hipster town. If you go around, you'll see a lot of people out late at night, and they're all having a good time. I can't even begin to name the clubs, but there's a million clubs for a million people. So yeah, if you're a young hipster, yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to come to Chicago at all.
What if you're a shopper person and you're here to to go shopping. Maybe you want something really high end. Is it Michigan Avenue? I think it is. Um, are there any like gems? Is there anything unique instead of just like a Baby Gap or something? Is there a place where maybe I can go to a flea market or a thrift store or some antiques? Is there something? Is there anything cool or unusual about maybe the shopping situation here?
It's all across the board. Anything you want, you'll find. I'll take you tomorrow. We'll go thrifting if you like. But
Make a video about it.
for the most part, it's what people say it is. The Magnificent Mile are all of the designers and all of the high end goods, and that's one of the few places where you can go and find everything in one area. You can find high end stores, solo stores out in the suburbs or by the malls. But for the city, yeah, all the high end stuff is it's all together. It's all in the same. It's all packed together. All the designer shops, they're all together and they're all on the Magnificent Mile, which is Michigan Avenue, and it's a beautiful place to be as well. They have beautiful lights up there. They have lots of little cafes. Uh, Michigan Mile is a good place to hang out, and this is the best time to hang out because it's beautifully lit. They have statues, they have vendors. It's just a nice place to go if you're looking for something that's out of the ordinary. If you're looking for something that's high end, or maybe more suited to what your individual likes are. Yeah, Michigan Avenue is the place to be. And like I said, I'm going to take you to to look at the flea market, and we'll go. What do you call that?
Thrifting.
Thrifting. Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow
Oh yeah, that sounds
when it's 2 degrees out.
when it's 2 degrees out. Maybe I'll buy a giant parka or something. Have you ever seen someone just walking around in a huge Arctic parka?
All the time.
Do they look funny?
All the time. I see the kid from A Christmas Story every year.
They just
So
fall over.
so heavily packed they can't even move their arms. I find it funny, but it's not funny if you're coming from Florida. I guess you need to wrap up until you get to that point. But yeah, tomorrow we'll probably see people pretty wrapped up. 2 degrees is not a joke.
Okay, yeah, I think I have a scarf somewhere. But
I got plenty of jackets to keep you warm.
that should be good. Yeah, I'm a little worried about that. Um, yeah, so speaking of wrapping up, we're almost done, and I appreciate your insight into travel. Do you have you ever stayed in a hotel here in Chicago?
Absolutely, yeah.
What, you have any that you've been in, and can you explain just a little bit of your experience at some of them?
When I was younger, I spent a lot of time downtown, and because I didn't want to go all the way home, I spent many nights in the hotels, and they're very nice. And like I said before, they're very accommodating, and you'll find different types for your money for that situation. I stayed at the Quality Inn downtown. I stayed at the Red Roof Inn downtown. It's a little classier than the ones in the suburbs, but you could also stay at some of the high end. You could stay at the Hyatt or some of the high end hotels. Hotel Intercontinental is my favorite if I'm going to stay downtown. They have a beautiful hotel. The rooms are small because they're the same rooms they've had for 500 years or how long they've been there. But I highly recommend the Hotel Intercontinental. Beautiful place right on Michigan Avenue. A little pricey, but that's what you expect in a place like that. And they have several little smaller hotels. If you just want to, if you're too drunk to drive home or you missed the last train, then yeah, you're surrounded by hotels, and they have a different hotel for whatever your budget is for that day. I've done it many times.
You mentioned that some things have been around for like 500 years. Now, Chicago is an older city.
Yes.
There was, of course, this big fire, right? When was that?
1877,
So,
1871.
so it's been a while. It's been a while. So there was
Over 100 years.
there was a big fire, but are there still remnants of the pre-fire? Why is everything made out of brick? Is that because everyone thinks that there's going to be another fire and they don't want wood anywhere? What's the architecture like here, and why is it so unusual?
Well, the architecture here is brilliant. Before the fire, we didn't have any alleys to put our garbage out in, or for many reasons the alleys. But they were built after the Chicago fire because it made after the Chicago fire it made everything convenient, so you don't have to put the garbage out in front of your house. Everything made out of brick. It was just the natural. What do you call it? Evolution of building. The bricks were better, so they built. And because everything had burned down prior, it was a good time for the city to say, okay, we're going to build everything in brick now. That might have had something to do with the Chicago fire, but I didn't make the decision back then. I'm just guessing that if you had the choice, you want a wood house or you want a brick house, and you just finished the Chicago fire, I'm sure most of the people said, the brick. But because of the Chicago, the only thing left is we'll see that too on Michigan Avenue. That's where the fire. That's where they put the fire out. So everything around there is burned. 90, I think it was 90 or 80% of Chicago burned down. But because of that, when they redesigned the city, everything was squared. They squared almost everything so that if you can count, you can find your way. 1800 north, 1700 south, and west. The city doesn't have too much east of the border of the square where it starts. So east, you go not too far east. I think it's only 1000 east, and then you end up in the Lake Michigan. Further south, as the city curves, you have more area on the south side going east. But the brilliant thing was when they set up the city after the Chicago fire, they squared it off and they numbered it off so that if you can count, if you know anything about numbers, you can find anything in the city because it's all numbered. It's all numbered streets, and if you know numbers, you can find your way around. And that's because of the Chicago fire that happened.
2 words. Willis Tower.
You must be insane. You try to get me killed? Only people from out of town call it Willis Tower. If they're looking at their travel brochures or their tour guides, everybody in Chicago calls it the Sears Tower, and it should have been left that name. I don't care who owns it. They should have left that name just because it's iconic. It's not a landmark, but it's iconic. It was one of the first skyscrapers we had, and I think it was built in 71 or 72, maybe even 60 something. I don't remember, but it's always been Sears Tower. And if you say Willis Tower to anybody who's local, who's from here, they will correct you. Even though the correct way is Willis Tower, you'll be corrected.
So you mentioned that it's a landmark and it's an icon. If you're a traveler coming to Chicago and you want to see a couple of some of the biggest landmarks, like when I go to Paris, I want to see the Louvre, I want to go see the Eiffel Tower. What would you say are some of the must-sees for a real touristy kind of person who really just wants to see the biggest parts, take some Instagram photos, and really just say, I did Chicago, if maybe they only have 2 or 3 days? What would you recommend are some of the big landmarks?
Right off the bat, I'd go right back to Sears Tower. Sears Tower is brilliant.
You
And
go all the way to the top?
in the line to get to the elevators that take you to the top, they have they have pieces of Chicago, like you could take a picture as if you're on the elevated train. There's a piece of Chicago you could take as if you're in Wrigley Field playing watching a baseball game. So they had fixed it up so that there's spots on the way up to the top of the Sears Tower where you could take pictures, iconic pictures, pictures of famous places here in Chicago without having to go there. The reason I say Sears Tower is because you got to get up there. You can see everything. I would go when day breaks. I mean, when day ends, because you can be on one side of the Sears Tower and you can see the blue, purple, the different colors over the lake, and then you go to the east side of the building and you can see the yellow and the red and the orange of the sunset. And to me, that's the best time to go. If you just want to look out and see the whole city, and I mean the whole, you can see the Wisconsin from the Sears Tower. You can see to Indiana from the Sears Tower. So it's definitely worth your time and your money. If you're going to come to one place, that would be the place. You can get a lot done just by going up to the observation deck of the Sears Tower.
Any other big places?
It depends on what you like. If you're a sports fan, I'd go to Soldiers Field to see where the Chicago Bears play. It's lit up nice. It's very colorful. It's very beautiful. I would go probably to one of the
The museum.
conservations gardens. They've got two. They're indoor conservations, and they've got plants from the desert, plants from the jungle. You can go to almost any tropical atmospheric places where you can find plants, and it's very comfortable. It's all heated, and it's all under glass. You get natural sunlight, but they're absolutely beautiful. You see the most the most beautiful colored plants there. And if you're in Chicago, and it's right downtown, so it's not out of your way or in the neighborhoods. I would definitely go see the conservations. And I'm a big science guy, so we also have the greatest museum as far as hands-on museums. I would definitely recommend the Museum of Science and Industry. That museum is loaded with hands-on stuff to see and hands-off stuff that you can actually use in the science-wise. The Field Museum of Natural History is it's amazing. It's a huge museum, but it's all nature. It's a natural museum. It tells you all of evolution. It tells you animals, sea animals, mountain animals. It's got a lot of information, and if that's what you're leaning towards, I would definitely go to the museums, either one. And we also have the Shed Aquarium, which has fish from all over the world. Real pleasant walk through there. Really, really a nice place to go. And again, it's right downtown. So you can get a lot of downtown stuff done and still go to the aquarium or to the Field Museum. The Museum of Science and Industry, it's about 20 to 25 minutes outside of downtown, but it's all along the lakefront. It's a pleasant ride there, it's a pleasant ride back.
Awesome. Well, it's been about an hour, and I really appreciate all of your insight. I think it gives people who are traveling or thinking of coming to Chicago a really
I
good
hope it was
idea.
helpful.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Do you have any last thoughts based on everything you've discussed this past hour about just in general what you love most about Chicago and what you want people who are traveling here to really get out of it and to experience the most out of it?
Um, Again, I might be a little biased, but I'm 100% honest. It really is a beautiful city. It's got a beautiful skyline. I would like people to come away with it's not the ugly, crime ridden, gray, ugly city you see on TV. It's a beautiful city with a beautiful lakefront, beautiful architecture, beautiful places to go, and you could just go to some of the nice restaurants, the small cafes. Just sit in a cafe and have some coffee and watch the people go by. To me, again, maybe a little biased, but I've been in big cities, and I love no city more than I love Chicago. This is an awesome place. If you're coming, come and expect to see a lot. It's a beautiful city.
All right. So I am about to. I am traveling here to Chicago this week. I have a lot on my agenda. First of all, I wanted this giant donut, and I got that. So I think I'm kind of actually ready to leave after that donut. But there's a few other things that I want to do, and of course, I'm going to make some videos of it and put them on this channel. But yeah, thank you for giving me more inspiration and motivation of things to do. I don't want to just sit here and watch TV all day. I want to really get the most out of it. I want to go thrifting. Definitely want to do that. We already went to the movies, and they have a great movie cinema scene here. I was very impressed that they have, like, they were playing movies like Maria and Night Bitch, which were extremely limited runs. So if you're a movie fan, you should come to a place like Chicago where you're going to get to see these movies first before they get to Netflix or whatever like that. They weren't playing that at all in Texas. So I was impressed with that. Um, we drove by this one area by the lake, or I think and we saw just the beautiful skyline. It's magnificent. I'd never really seen a skyline quite like that. You really get an appreciation for how massive and just powerful this city is, and you think about all of the history that it has, and just driving down the street and seeing these old buildings, some of them probably from before the fire, who knows, it just has a lot of history, and you can really feel that this is a place. The way people drive here is a little cray cray. I will say. But if I'm staying mostly on the L or on one of the trains, I should probably be okay as long as I stay away from these giant cat-like rodents. Um, but yeah, so far I've been loving Chicago, and I'll be sharing other tips and other experiences that I have with y'all. And feel free to message me if you have questions. And don't forget to like and subscribe, as always. And thank you for spending some time today listening to this sort of tutorial, but based off of real experiences of a true Chicagoan in this absolutely beautiful, amazing city. So thank you so much for joining me, and thank you, Manny, for giving us your time and sharing these very fascinating insights. So thanks to all of you, and have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Bye.